Hey everyone, and welcome to the Multipoint Learning Pack video. It's been specifically designed to teach you as many of the key concepts of multipoint as possible. So with that said, it may come across as a little bit overly complicated because I've tried to pack in so much into it to teach you multipoint, which, if you don't know, is a subsystem of the multiboard ecosystem. In a nutshell, multipoint is a flexible connection system that connects almost anything anywhere. Now, you can either just watch this video or print these parts yourself and follow along. All of the parts and everything I'll be talking about in this video are linked down below, along with the printing guidelines. Right, let's dive straight into this. Right, with it all disassembled and in front of me, let's get started by building the platform that we're going to do everything on. So I'm going to grab my tile, I'm going to grab these two freestanding feet and the little parts that go with them. Now, it gets a little bit tricky just here. So we're going to grab this. These are specifically designed to flex a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to go here. We're going to squeeze it down and flex it in there. And we can do the same for the other one. We're going to squeeze it down, flex it in there. Now, there's these tiny little parts. Now, this is the bit that's tricky. We've got to go in at an angle. And I'm going to try and show you here. We go in at an angle in there, and then what you're doing is just moving the top and the bottom till they basically get locked up in place. And then we're going to push the bottom, push the top, push the bottom, push the top, and eventually it's going to click into place, and that is going to be super solid. Compared to the other one that is wobbling all over the place, you can see why that's in there. So we're going to grab this one once again, go here. It gets a little bit tricky. It took me a while to get the technique for it, but then there we have it in place, and that is now all solid. Now these little freestanding feet, they have screws, so you could actually screw these down to a surface, which is always quite fun. With this now set up, let's talk about the star of the show, multipoints. What exactly do they do, and what are they? Well, multipoints allow for fast attachment of parts in a variety of ways. They come folded because this is the strongest printing orientation for them, and in many different styles. One of the most used multipoints is this little guy right here. This is the small thread multipoint, and you know it's a multipoint because it has these tiny little triangles on its face. Now, I'll show you a close-up right now. This will become more important later on. Now, this small thread multipoint is used all over the place. One of its primary functions, as you may have noticed in the multiboard starter pack video, is to do bolt locking with snaps. So let's grab ourselves a bolt locked multipoint and convert a snap so that it has a multipoint on it. So this here is a moderate weight bearing snap, and then I'm going to grab myself my bolt locking multipoint. I'm going to fold it up, put that in there. Don't have to press it too tight, just put it in, and then I'm going to get my multipoint here, and I'll thread that in here, give it a nice little thread. I'm going to grab myself a coin and just give it a little tighten down. I don't have to go absolutely crazy on the strength. And then I'm just going to grab it, go maybe up to this top right corner, and then I'm just going to click it into place so it's there. Okay, now of course, that was a lot to just add that, so there's no need to do that. We can just grab ourselves a nice large thread multipoint here, and we can just thread that directly in. Now, one of the things about these large thread multipoints, they have this really small edge, so I like to use the bolt gripper that comes with the pack. So you can just grab this, put it in place, and then you can just rotate it in. Now, I am butchering this. Give me one moment. I'm just going to get it started. There we go. Then I get the bolt gripper, and then I'm able to tighten that down like so. So that is now in place. Now here's the fun thing. Two multipoints together can basically function as a rail and let you place sliding on accessories. But before I show you that, multipoints also come as rails. And using that exact same bolt locking workflow, we basically put rails onto snaps and then onto the tile. So here we have it. Right here, we have our nice little bolt lock rail. I'm going to get two of these snaps, put one here, put one on this side here, and now I'm going to grab myself some multipoints, just put them here to the back, thread them in nicely, grab the other one, thread it in nicely, and then just going to tighten it down with a coin. There we go, and there we go. And now let's go and snap this in. So I'm going to go up here, just at an angle because these are moderate weight bearing snaps, and click That's it there now in position. Now, of course, the interesting part of this setup is that you can attach sliding accessories to both rails and points, like this little shelf right here. Now, things to keep in mind is that if you had a big rail, you're going to have to slide that all the way from one end, all the way across, and if you want to take it off, you have to slide it all the way the other way. But if you have a mix of both points and rails, like we have right here, you can actually come directly up to these points and then slide it on. It will hold there. You can also go across onto a rail and it will hold there. How exactly is that working? Well, the way that works is because behind here on the rail, we have entry points every 50 millimeters. So if you had this all snaps all the way along, that means that this is going to act completely as a rail and you won't be able to get this on. But if you took 2 snaps out, you would actually be able to put that in, slide it across, it will hold there, and you can use this as an entry point onto rails themselves. This can be incredibly powerful because it just lets you create entry points into your rail system rather than having to move everything along all over the place. It also means that you could use an entry point that you go in, go along, put the snaps in, and then go back onto, and then you know that that is going to be completely like a rail all over again. So that is points and rails. But multipoints also come in a slightly different variety. The simplest ways to explain this is by showing you it. In a nutshell, there are 2 types of multipoints. The regular one that has little triangles on it, and the light one that has no little triangles on it. The light multipoint is 1 millimeter thinner than the regular one and is used to connect bin shells flush to themselves and to a surface. This is because the bin shell walls are too thin to accommodate a regular multipoint. So here it is. I want to attach 2 bin shells down here horizontally with their bottoms to create drawers. The bin shells themselves have enough room underneath them so they have a full multi-point hole in it, which means I'm just going to grab myself a full multi-point small thread. I will put it in place here. I will start to thread that in. I will get myself a coin and I'll thread that one in there. I'll also do the same because I'm going to want to put another one in there later on. So I'll grab this one, put it right here, and I will thread that right there. Thread it in all the way. Again, we get the coin, makes life a lot easier. There it is. It is now tightened in, and I can get the bin bottom, and I can just attach that right there, and that's now attached in. That's because it can take a full regular multipoint because there is enough space for it on its bottom. Now, I want to do the same, but up here onto the side of the bin and vertically. Now, the key thing is I'm going to want to put this bin here flush to the tile here. So that means I'm going to need to use a light multipoint. So I'll put this light multipoint up here. I will thread it in, and then I will get myself a coin to just finish the job off. Again, I don't need to go crazy on this. It's just to finish it off there. And I just want to show you, you can still attach these vertically like that, but there's going to be a 1 millimeter offset right there. If I want it to be flush to the tile, I'm going to go and attach it like this, and then I know that is going to be perfectly flush to the tile. So now that we've started to attach these bin shells vertically, I think it's time to explain what exactly is going on the outside of them. Well, what you're seeing here are called multi-point rail walls, and they are very versatile. They can do a lot more than just let multi-points and rails slide along them. In fact, they can take whole other types of connections. Now, before we dive into the deep end and I show you all of the different styles of connections these rail walls have, let me explain the rail wall naming convention. It might look a little bit weird to start with, but I promise you it becomes really obvious with time. Rail wall connectors come in all sorts of shapes and sizes, but all of them have a consistent naming convention made up of 3 letters: O, X, and I. These letters represent parts of the rail wall. I think the easiest way to explain this one is by showing you a few different types. So here they are. This here is an OX. This here is an OXO. This one an OI. And this one here is an IOXOI. I I hope that starts to explain it all. I promise you it becomes really simple with time, but that there is the overall naming convention that all of the Rail wall accessories have. Right, so now that we know the naming convention, let's get into all the different connection types. Starting off with Rail pop-ins. As the name suggests, these literally pop in to Rail walls, and unlike Rails, they do not slide. Plus, they give multi-bin shells or anything with Rail walls additional connection types. So this one right here, this is a pegboard click pop-in. You pop one of these in, and there you have it. Now you can attach this anywhere without actually needing a multipoint there in the first place. This is a great way of just having something that you can quickly take on and take off. Now, something that is very similar to this, but not included with this pack, is the bolt lock pop-in, which, as you can imagine, it lets you attach a snap to a pop-in. Then we have light multi-point pop-ins, used to connect bin shells to other bin shells. So I'm just going to pop this down here. Now, sometimes I don't like to press this with my finger because I can get it pinched right there. So what I go and use is just some sort of other tool. I can even use a coin here, and I just press it so that it pops in like that. Now, because this is a light multipoint, means that when I connect another bin shell to it, it's going to be perfectly flush. And because we already have a nice little peg click there, I can just mount that straight like that. And then we have flat rail pop-ins, used to connect pop-in bin extensions to topless bin shells. So, by the way, this here is a topless bin shell because it doesn't have that top bit there. So this here is a topless bin shell. This is a pop-in extension. So the great thing about these is that when you connect these two together using a flat rail pop-in, it doesn't actually use up any of the space in there, unlike the click-in extension. So I'm going to get myself one of these flat rail pop-ins. Just going to check the base here. I want this to be on the top of it. So I'm going to pop this pop-in right there, line it up, make sure I support it underneath inside, and just pop that in. I'll go for the other side as well, grab one of these, go right there and pop that in. That is now truly and utterly secure in there fantastically. Next up, we have rail click connectors. When bins are connected with pop-ins in one direction, they're basically impossible to take off, but in the other direction, they come out pretty easily. But if you want to add just a little bit of extra friction in there, that's what these lovely little click connectors are for. So I'm going to grab these here. I'm going to make sure that these are orientated in this way. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to add a nice little OX slim, sorry, not slim, light multipoint right here. And I want to add a little bit of extra stuff to make sure that this stays together. So I'll flip it upside down. And then I'm going to add this little click connector in between the top there and pop this down in there. Now with that in there, it's going to be nice and secure and it's going to stay in place. Now alternatively, because this is a topless connection, I could have put the pin up from the top and have it the other way around. So that's something that's interesting about these click connectors. They can flip them round. So I'm going to add this here, and I've realized that I've put these round on the wrong side, so I want to be able to add a bin here. So I'm just going to pop this out, flip it round to the other side, and click that in. I'm going to do the same for this one here, pop it round over to the other side, and then I'm going to grab this one here, just undo it, and I'll put it over to the other side as well. Now with all these on the other side, we can start to finish off this build here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a nice little slim click connector to this side here. So this is on the left side of it. So I'm going to go and pop that in there. I will go and pop that like this. And then I'm going to go and I'll slide these two together. Now you'll see that because this was a light and this was a light, they all can stay nice and flush and together. If this was a multi-point one, it wouldn't have been able to. All right, now that we've done that little prep work here, one thing that I do want to mention is with that little click connector there, there's no need to go overboard if you have a really tall bin. You don't need to make an absolutely giant click connector. I very much go for this here. This is my standard setup pretty much. So if I had a really tall bin, I would have this OX light multipoint. I would have that all the way at the top, maybe one in the middle, and then a click connector down at the bottom as well. So that is sort of like the recommended setup. Now, with this all together, there's still one more little connection that I want to show you here. So I'll put that all together there. And lastly, for now, we have the rail slim covers. Some would say that the bin shelves look, well, ugly. So that's exactly what these covers are for. They're basically just a little aesthetic touch to add to all of them. You basically just line them up here and they click directly into place. Now, sometimes they can be a little bit tricky to get in, so you might need to give them the smallest little bend to just encourage them to click into place. So we're just going to pop these all around here. Of course, you can print these out in any color you want. It really adds a nice little touch to it all. So just going around, popping these all in. They come in a whole bunch of different varieties. So that's this one here, all clicked up. I want to put that in here. Now let me take a look. So we've got another space right here. I'm going to go and I'll add this one right there. Click that into place. And then we've got two little spots here on the front. So I'll click that one there. And I'll go to this one here and I'll click this one into place as well. Can get a little bit fiddly here. So click and click it in. So this one's getting a little bit tough. So I've just got to go give it the smallest little bend just so that it has that click factor to go in. Give it a moment. There we go. That's now clicked in. And there we have it, looking all nice and dapper. Of course, we should finish off these bin shelves by putting those on in there. And now let's get on to some drawers. These here are simple drawers, and as the name suggests, they are simply drawers. You just slide them into place. So slide this one here, slide this one here. You'll see that they don't come out too easily, but they do come out eventually. It's because they have these little bumps here right on the front that stop them from coming out. However, if you want to stop these from coming out at all, we've got to add some little drawer stoppers, which are these teeny tiny little parts. Now these teeny tiny little parts, they go up in the top right corners and you just push them into place. So I'm just going to go here. We have another one right there, one on this side there, and one over here. Now with those now all in place, you'll see that the drawers, oops, of course, if you go over the top, the drawers don't come out thanks to that little design here at the top of it and the little drawer stoppers in there. So we can now go and put that in there. And there we go. That's now held nicely in place. And of course, if you're wanting to stop these to have a little bit more of a click, you can always add a washer to the back here and a magnet actually to the base of the bin shelf that I showed you over in the multi-bin starter pack video. And of course, lastly, like every subsystem of multi-board, the Multipoint is independent and has its own plate of just multi-point connection types. It's basically a plate of rail walls, and you can pretty much do the exact same thing that's going over here, but in a very interesting, different manner over on this side. So let's go and do this exact setup here on the other side. So I'm going to grab myself this multi-point. I'm going to be putting it right here into the center of it, lining it up here, and we're just going to thread that into place. So it's hard to do it without actually looking at it. There we go. Line that up, thread it up. I'll get a coin, thread it up a little bit more. There we have it. Line it up. I'm going to grab the other side here, put this into place, and there we go. Get a coin once again, tighten this up. And I'm just going to add a little bit extra because this here is a double-sided multi-point plate, which means it's pretty stiff. But if this was a single-sided one, you need to support it on both sides. So I'm just going to put that over here. And then I'm going to put this one over here. And now we're going to take a look at the last pop-ins that we have with us here to understand how we're going to be doing this. So with the last pop-ins that we have here, we have two full multi-point pop-ins and we have two light pop-ins. So these light ones, I can tell that this one here, I'm going to take this out from here. So first, let me just grab this bin shell, bring it out. I'll click that out, and just for the sake of it, I'm going to take out this right here, and I'm going to see, I want this one to slide in up at the top here. So that means I'm going to have to get myself one of these, and I'll put it all the way at the top here. That's going to let me then slide this into place like so. And then I'm going to want to put my base one all the way down here. This is a full multi-point all the way down there. I'm going to click that into place. I'll do that to the other side as well. Click it in. Perfect. I can now get those two drawers, bring them to that side. They're now going to be hooked on down there, and I can now get this exact same one, bring it down in here, line it up properly. If I can do it without looking at it properly. It's really hard to do it without looking at it. There we go. I'm going to pop that in now. Perfect. I can then get myself my little bin, slide that on. You can see we have basically the exact same setup, but on the other side. Of course, we can add our drawer back on here, put that on there, put that on there. Let's go ahead. Let's just flip that onto the other side just for the sake of showing you how easy it is to change this up. So we're just going to bring this back out, bring this one back up as well. Take these off, whack it onto the other side. We'll then go and add that pop-in back into our lovely bin shell here. Perfect. And now with that in place, I will click that in there, grab ourselves our little bin and put it here. Let's add the drawer on this side. And there we have it. And of course, the fun thing about the Multipoint Plate is that you can pretty much mount this straight onto any surface, be it a wall, underneath your table, or a multi-board tile. In this case, we've added it to the tile just to give you a little flavor of it. Now, this very much is a learning pack. We've packed in so much into this so that you really learn as much of the multi-point connection as possible. It nowhere near needs to be as complicated as we've done here. This is truly to learn as much of the connections as possible. Now that you've gone through all of the different learning packs here, honestly, you can go and tackle all of the rest of the packs in any way, shape, and form you want. Of course, go and check out the Multiboard Community because there's some great builds being shown there as well, and I cannot wait to see what you're all going to be creating. Thank you so much for watching, and keep making.